Wow, what a weekend. What an absolutely staggering, exhausting, exhilarating 5 days of rugby. Welcome back to Rugby from the Stands. If I look a little blurry eyed, it's because I am. Since last Thursday, this channel has published 7 videos covering the 4 biggest games of the weekend: the Bloody Slow at Eden Park, the Springboks in Durban, the Bronze Final, and the Women's Rugby World Cup Grand Final. It's been a grind. I was up until 3 a.m. over the weekend, running on caffeine and pure adrenaline, trying to get those post-match reviews out hours after the final whistle. But you do it because weekends like this demand it. These games weren't just fixtures, they felt like seismic shifts in the rugby landscape. And the response from you all have been incredible. The Springboks review is blowing up, one of our highest viewed videos yet. And yes, the Women's World Cup final preview. Well, let's just say my comment section has never been more active. And honestly, I love it. That passion is why we do this. Today, I want to take a step back. This isn't a rapid reaction. This is a deep reflection on what it all means. We need to talk about the paradigm shift the Women's World Cup has delivered and the challenges the sport faces. We need to look at the Rugby Championship, balanced on a knife edge. And as an All Blacks fan, I need to talk about South Africa, because what we are witnessing is something transcendent. It is ferocious, it is dominant, and frankly, it is beautiful. So grab a coffee, settle in. We have to start at Twickenham. 81,885 people, a world record crowd. This tournament wasn't just growth, this was liftoff. And I have to start with a massive slice of humble pie. In my preview video, I looked at the revolutionary speed Canada used to dismantle the Black Ferns. I bought into the fairy tale. I predicted a famous Canadian victory, and I was spectacularly wrong. The Red Roses were magnificent, a 33-13 victory. As we broke down in the post-match review, they suffocated Canada. They dominated the set piece and the collisions. It was a masterclass in control and World Cup final pressure. And congratulations to the Black Ferns for securing the bronze against France. They showed clinical precision when it mattered, overcoming a powerful French side. But the results of this World Cup highlight a crucial conversation. My admiration for Canada, a team that had to crowdfund their way to the final, should never be misinterpreted. There is a danger that administrators look at Canada and say, look what they've achieved without full funding. So any semi-pro team asking for investment should just work harder. That is fundamentally the wrong message. The right message is found by looking at the Red Roses. England's dominance, 33 wins in a row, is the payoff of professionalism. Let's be clear, the English team's head and shoulders lead in the women's game is a direct result of the admirable emphasis, the tangible on and off the field support, and the hard cash they have poured into this team. Historically, England rugby hasn't got everything right, but their thoughtful, strategic, and long-term consistent approach to the women's game has yielded massive success. The England Rugby Union truly leads the way in how women's sport should be supported and invested in. They have set the benchmark. The gap between the North and the South is growing, not because of talent, but because of investment. It is preposterous that top 10 teams are still semi-pro in 2025. Look at the Black Ferns. The future is absolutely bright, but the path is challenging. This is an incredibly young team brimming with raw talent. Jorja Miller is only 21. Braxton Sorensen-McGee is just 18. Sylvia Brunt, 21. My favorite find of the tournament, the phenomenal Kaipo Olsen-Baker, is only 23. Maya Kawanakaulani-Roos, 24. Even a veteran presence like Renee Holmes is only 25. New Zealand is blessed with this talent, but they need opportunities. If these girls are to reach their potential, they need more games at a higher level. If New Zealand rugby isn't willing or able to fork out the financial investment domestically, they must open up opportunities for these girls to play in the PWR in England. Look at what exposure to the PWR has done for Canadian women's rugby. Getting that professional experience will lift these girls immensely. This investment is vital because the women's game is the single biggest growth story in rugby. But the sport, particularly in the Southern Hemisphere, is facing massive headwinds. Rugby, both men's and women's, is struggling in Australia and New Zealand. Yet, it's doing incredibly well in the Northern Hemisphere. The French are selling out crowds for club games. The Premiership and the URC are thriving. The same leagues some Southern Hemisphere pundits cheekily call very, very low-level rugby. The reality is, popularity among younger audiences in the South is waning, while it's comparatively strong up north. And this brings me to a concerning trend. I was looking at a recent study by EY in the UK about sports engagement among Gen Z. The report found that the top sports for Gen Z are football, running, Formula One, swimming, and boxing. Rugby union struggles to compete. I see this reflected in my own channel stats. This channel is obviously very small, but when I look at the data, the vast majority of you watching my videos are above 35 years old, and the biggest age cohort is those above 55. Now, I'm not ageist. I love all my audience, and I appreciate your wisdom and engagement. But the fact that less than 10% of my audience is under 35 is a bit concerning. I wonder if other rugby channels see the same stats. It suggests we're not capturing the next generation. This is why the Women's World Cup felt so important. It was surging. It was bringing in new audiences. It felt joyful, accessible, and fan-first. The women's game isn't just growing rugby. It actually might be saving it. Now, let's pivot to the men's game, the most competitive rugby championship we have ever seen. Let's start at Eden Park. All Blacks 33, Wallabies 24. The streak continues. As an All Blacks fan, it was a relief, but it was a roller coaster. The Wallabies showed incredible resilience to get within 2 points late. But as we broke down in the review, the story was self-sabotage for Australia. You cannot miss 39 tackles and concede 15 penalties. The key reflection for New Zealand was the return of Cam Roigard. He was outstanding. 2 tries, crisp service, a magnificent 50-22. He provided the control and the threat that we desperately missed against the Springboks. The platform was immaculate. 100% success at scrum and line-out. The fortress was held. And then we went to Durban. Springboks 67. Argentina 30. Massive, merciless, a green and gold avalanche, 9 tries, a 42-7 second half demolition. They dominated every facet, 5.4 points per entry into the Pumas 22, ruthless efficiency, and we witnessed a coming-of-age performance. Sasha Feinberg-Mngomezulu, a hat-trick, a stack of conversions, and the all-time Springbok single match points record. It was generational. But it wasn't just the result. It was the way they did it. And this brings me to something that as a diehard All Blacks fan is both difficult to admit and impossible to deny. We are truly living in the golden era of Springbok rugby, and I am so grateful to be alive to witness it. But here's the thing. I feel like South Africa still don't get the recognition they truly deserve. Which is crazy to say about a team that has won back-to-back World Cups, right? Let's look at the narrative. In 2019, they lost in the pool stages. Their semi-final against Wales was an ugly grind. In their final against England, who had just demolished the All Blacks, no one gave the Boks a chance. Yet, they were victorious. Then, in 2023, again, they lose in the pool stages. And then the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and the finals were all won by a single point. This created a narrative among neutrals and opposition fans that they had a sense that South Africa weren't really miles ahead. You heard the complaints by Antoine Dupont about the refereeing in the quarterfinals, the feeling that England let the semi-finals slip. The what ifs from the All Blacks final regarding the red card and missed kicks. There was always this sense of, did South Africa get a little bit lucky? And then the criticisms continued. The 7-1 bench split. It's against the spirit of the game. There was always a reason to diminish their achievements. To not class the Springboks team at the same level as the all-conquering All Blacks of 2010 to 2015. But something has fundamentally shifted this year. Having witnessed the first 20 minutes they played against the Wallabies at Ellis Park, the 40 minutes in the second half that they played against the All Blacks in Wellington, and the demolition of Argentina in Durban, we are seeing the Springboks crossing the chasm. In marketing, crossing the chasm is when you work relentlessly on your product, improving it until it reaches a point where the product sells itself. The market recognizes the value inherently. I feel like South Africa are now crossing that chasm. The doubt is evaporating, replaced by awe. And the architect is Rassie Erasmus. For years, the narrative was that the Boks were predictable, powerful, but one-dimensional. Rassie understood the need to evolve and disrupt their own style before someone else disrupted it for them. Bringing on Tony Brown was a masterstroke. Many South African pundits questioned the wisdom of it. They're worried about moving away from their DNA, the reservations about the so-called Tony Ball. But Rassie backed his vision. That takes immense courage. And the result? Wow. They haven't sacrificed their power. They've added dimensions that are, frankly, terrifying. We are seeing this team in front of our eyes transcend what everyone thought was the Springboks ceiling. They used to just smash and bash and go direct. Now they will smash, bash, go direct, and they will cut you apart. And they will do it in style. It's a green and gold avalanche, and every other team is looking at them asking, how do we defend against this? Right now, they are head and shoulders above the rest. As much as I love my All Blacks, this current AB's team is not the best in the world. They need to consistently beat South Africa, France, and Ireland to lay claim to that title. Right now, South Africa plays with a skill, fluency, and power far greater than any other team on the planet. And it's been fueled by incredible talent. Cheslin Kolbe has been doing this for years, but look at others emerging. We've seen what guys like Damian Willemse can do. He was the best player on the field in Wellington, but the emergence of Sasha Feinberg-Mngomezulu is something else. I was privileged to see him at Eden Park, and even in the few minutes before he got injured, he looked dangerous. But in Durban, we saw the full display. What I love watching is the exuberance of youth, the beautiful naivete. Someone with experience might not try the things that Sasha is doing. He's doing it because he's young, he backs himself, and he wants to be the next greatest player. When I watch him, the flair he brings, I don't think Dan Carter is the right comparison. Sasha reminds me of the great Carlos Spencer. He's a Carlos Spencer type general, the X Factor, the Flash. But I think he also brings the potential for that Dan Carter class and control. Sasha isn't the finished product yet, but give him a couple of years. By the next World Cup, he's going to be unbelievable. And he has the perfect mentors. He has Rassie, who will bring him back to earth if his head gets too big, reminding him that South African rugby is bigger than him. And he has Tony Brown, constantly encouraging him to express himself, to play without fear. This evolution is so important because it finally silences the naysayers. Even the most famous anti-Springbok pundits cannot help but be in awe of how they are playing now. They'll try to pivot and say, see, South Africa always had the cattle, the X factor. It was their style holding them back. This is what we're talking about. You don't get to say that now. Deep down, they didn't believe this South African team had the courage to reinvent itself. They thought the Boks could only play one way. They criticized them for just kicking the ball or relying on the bomb squad forwards. Now, you can't say that. Now you can see that in every facet of rugby, the Springboks are playing at an insane level. They are dangerous, powerful, and sublime. If they continue trending this way, dominating and bulldozing every team, then no one can argue that they are the greatest rugby team to have ever played. And I think that's what we are witnessing right now. And that performance sets up an incredible final round of the Rugby Championship next weekend. The Springboks are clearly in the driver's seat, but it all comes down to bonus points. Here's where we stand. We have the second leg of the Bloody Slow in Perth, and the Springboks take on Argentina again. The equation is pressurized. For the All Blacks to stay in the hunt, they need to beat the Wallabies, and they must do it with a bonus point. For the Springboks, the path is clearer. They also likely need to win with a bonus point to ice the retention of the Rugby Championship. If they do that, they will achieve historic back-to-back championships, cementing this golden era. Next weekend is going to be absolute blockbuster theatre. As I sit here reflecting on the exhaustion and the exhilaration, I can't help but think about just how amazing rugby has been this year. Think about what we've been treated to in 2025. We had an awesome Six Nations. We witnessed perhaps the best Super Rugby tournament in years. The European Champions Cup delivered elite intensity. We had the spectacle of the Lions Tour of Australia. We've had the most competitive rugby championship ever. And we've just finished the most successful Women's Rugby World Cup in history. And we still have the Autumn Northern Tours to look forward to in November. I have to ask, has the quality of rugby ever been this good globally? It's not just one hemisphere dominating. The North is strong. Their investment is paying huge dividends, creating thriving club scenes and powerful international teams. And the South, despite the challenges we discussed regarding investment and audience engagement, is producing incredible rugby. It's defined by the stunning innovation of the Springboks, the grit and never-say-die attitude of the Wallabies under Joe Schmidt, and the enduring talent and legacy of the All Blacks. Across both genders, the sport is thriving on the field. It's weekends like this that reminds us why we love the game, the drama, the heartbreak, the brilliance, the sheer human effort. It's why we stay up until 3 a.m. to break down the stats. Because when rugby is this good, it's the greatest show on earth. Thank you all so much for the incredible engagement over the weekend. If you're new to the channel, drawn in by the World Cup or the Rugby Championship drama, please stick around. Hit that like and subscribe button. As I mentioned, publishing this much content in a short span can sometimes challenge the YouTube algorithm. So your support, your shares, and your engagement mean everything. Let me know in the comments what your biggest reflection was from this weekend. Are you as blown away by the Springboks as I am? What did the Women's World Cup mean to you? And are you concerned about rugby's connection with the younger generation? It's been a massive few days. I'm going to go grab another coffee and recharge. We'll be back later this week with the previews for the final round. Until then, thanks for watching Rugby from the Stands.